This is Yep and That Too, hosted by Kerrie Roberts and Aaron Rice, a podcast for creatives discussing the craft and artistry of redefining success as we learn to maneuver through life with joy, contentment, and confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome to Yep and That Too. This is Kerrie Roberts. I'm here with my wonderful friend and co-host, Aaron. And today I'm super excited because today I get to interview him. We're going to talk about a little bit about his story, his current situation, and how he views and defines success. So, hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Good. Are you excited for this?
I know.
Come on. You're going to do great. I'm very excited.
It's just a different role for me.
Yeah, that's good. This is good practice for you. It's good
everybody
experience.
loves to talk about themselves.
Right? You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of talking about themselves, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Kerrie's Kitchen Creations. Today, we're going to talk about some wheat. That says soft wheat. Well, this is going to be hard if we don't have a video of us, but okay. How many of you really know what your wheat looks like? These are wheat berries. So something I've been doing in my kitchen lately is,
I've never seen a tan berry.
Yeah, it's a tan berry. That's what they call it, wheat berry. So yeah, tiny, tiny little guys. And I've been milling my own flour. It's been incredible. So apparently it's more nutritious if it's freshly milled. So you mill it and then you bake your bread immediately and it's delightful. And I'm also learning the difference between, there's soft white or soft wheat. There's also red, but soft wheat is more for pastry baking. And then you have your hard wheat, which is better for bread because of the gluten content and how it puffs up and everything. But that's what's going on. We're grinding flour. We're buying big old buckets. I mean, I have huge buckets that I can't even pick up of wheat in my pantry with massive, serious tops on them because you don't want weevils and things. Yeah. So milling flour. And you know what? You can mill anything. You can, buy oat flour or you can just make your own oat flour with rolled oats.
Amazing is, first of all, how do you mill flour?
It's just grinding it. That's it. You think of an old timey mill.
Why don't you say grinding it?
Because it's called milling. I don't know.
We're not in 1832.
But you mill the flour. That's the technical term for it. You say, I mine for gold. Why don't you just say you dig for it? I don't know. Because you mine for gold, you mill flour. I don't know.
They say everything's a learning process, right?
Yeah.
You know what I've learned most in the now, what is this, 6 or 7 episodes?
I don't know. Yeah. What have you learned the most?
How to edit some of the jokes I want to make. And
that is a good life exercise for you.
I think my wife is going to be most happy about that part of this podcast.
Good. You are welcome, Sarah. I love.
Are you?
Sarah.
So you mill the flour.
You mill the flour, and then you just use it,
and then you bake your own bread.
Yeah.
I love how you answer. Yeah, like that. Yeah. Of course, everybody does.
Of course, it does. Yeah.
Okay. I'm very.
And then you eat it. You consume the bread. That's what's next.
Yeah, right. And then we'll stop with the process.
Okay.
There.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Milling flour.
Milling flour. All right, yeah. Aaron.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what I know about you, I figured I would do it this way. It'll be more fun. You grew up small town in Kentucky, very into sports. This is what I know about Aaron. He can correct me. Very into sports. I know that you moved to Nashville because it had to do with a basketball coaching opportunity. Somehow in there, you started writing music, writing lyrics, and you had almost immediate success with this, and then started doing that full time. You did that for full time for quite some time. And then there were some changes, some bends in the road. How was that? You can correct me.
Wow. Uh,
I paid attention.
yeah. Well, we didn't just meet either.
I've paid attention for the past how long has
three
it been?
three
15
years.
years?
Yeah, 15.
Stop. Like 15 years. Yeah.
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been friends a long
Um,
time.
so yes, I bounced around a lot growing up. I, like you, am a pastor's kid.
Mm-hmm.
I bounced around a lot growing up. I spent most of kind of elementary, middle school, and high school in a small town in Kentucky. But it was one of those things where like the day school was out, whether that would be Thanksgiving break or Christmas break or spring break or summer. I was usually at my mother's family's in Virginia, like the Virginia Beach area. And so when you move to a small rural town, a lot of times if you're not from there, you're never from there. So there was a little bit of that for me. But also I was a little insulated there as well. My dad taught at a small Bible college. I lived on the campus. The other faculty and staff kids, they moved from other areas too, some from Orlando, some from Korea. So,
Cool.
So we were kind of our own little thing. But yes, I was an athlete. And through college, I worked with our women's basketball team and thought that I was going to coach basketball forever.
Yeah.
Back up, in my sophomore year of high school, I had a really bad knee injury, which kept me out of the basketball season. During that time, I joined a band, which was a complete DC Talk ripoff band. This was Heaven Bound, new thing, Free at Last DC Talk. This was pre Jesus Freak.
Yes.
We were very we were.
How have I never heard any of this? Are there recordings?
You really don't know this part?
No, I've never heard any of this music.
Oh, and you never will. You never will.
No, I need these recordings.
Never, ever. So, but the difference, what made us very different than DC Talk, is there were two rappers and one singer. So different.
So different.
But living in rural Kentucky, back then there were those things called street tracks that you could buy, those cassettes, and it was just the track.
Yeah.
Like you were probably doing Sandy Patty songs.
Yeah.
Or, Amy Grant, or I don't know.
Twyla Paris.
Twyla, yeah.
Yeah.
Cindy Morgan or whoever.
Yes.
I was buying DC Talk street tracks.
Yes, you were.
And doing them. And then so we would do, half our show would be originals. The other half would be
video of this. Where's the video?
VHS. Nobody can find them. Nobody can play them.
The VHS? They melted.
But nobody knew who DC Talk was. So we had a whole big show. I mean, and like we were learning. We were learning their choreo. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
Which is, looking at my career now, that's nuts, right?
Right. Fantastic.
So that happened. Then my junior year, the guy I was in the band with graduated, moved away. I was, my knee injury was better. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I played piano from like 5th to 8th grade in Kentucky. You are either an athlete or you're not. I was, and basketball won. So in 8th grade, I was like, I'll never touch a piano again.
Yeah.
So then I go to college. My friends were all music majors. I mean, my best friends are actually, one of my best friends from college is somebody Sam Mizell.
Yeah. I didn't know you met him from college.
Yeah, we were in college together.
Wow.
Crazy talented songwriter. But we never wrote songs together in college. And he was kind of like the big deal at school because he was an artist and he could sing so well and whatever.
Right.
So I would go to like his concerts and things, but I cared about basketball. I was a student assistant with our women's basketball team. I did a lot. I worked with our practiced with the ladies. So when I was going to be a graduate assistant there, and then our head basketball coach passed away. New coach coming in, we had never had those conversations or whatever, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to coach, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
I ended up moving in with the guy that I was in the band with when I was in high school.
So funny.
And his uncle is a very, very successful record producer named Brian Lennox. Brian had produced a lot with Michael W. Smith, and I mean, all these, and Brian actually just passed away a little while ago. And but Brian was like, he would always say, okay, are you going to do this whole rap thing again? Whatever.
I love it.
But one day I was at lunch with a friend, and all of his friends were music people.
Right.
So when I moved to Nashville, I was just around music people again. But I was the sports director at the YMCA. That was my job. Getting ready to go to grad school, try to launch some sort of, I wanted to coach women's college basketball. And I was at lunch one day with a friend who was a writer producer, and he and I had always talked. I grew up in the hip hop world. Like I loved hip hop, and we were talking about some new rap album that came out, and I was kind of going over the lyrics with him. He's like, first of all, how do you remember them? Secondly, why do you think about them like that? He's the typical like beat producer, the track guy. And I'm sitting here analyzing these rappers' bars and going, well, no, this is why it's cool, because of this inner rhyme and this and the way this wordplay or whatever, and this double entendre or whatever. He was like, all right, I'm producing a record right now, and there are 2 bridges in it that are going to be rapped. But I don't think the guys can actually write the bars. He's like, come to the studio with me right now and just write them.
No way.
And he was like, if it stinks, nobody will ever hear it.
Right.
Okay. So I got started by just going in and writing, 16 bars or whatever.
Very cool.
And I would actually track them. Then they would take it, learn it, and replace my vocal. I left that day with 2 major label cuts.
Yeah. Boom.
And then he was like, dude, you could do this. He was like, you really could do this. It's Mike Lenny is his name. Lenny. If you ever listen to this, you know that story, but he is the reason that I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to grad school. But what you know about me is if I decide I'm going to do something, I dive in.
Yeah.
And so all growing up, sports and music were my 2 passions. And I dove into my 2 favorite artists ever were the Beatles, specifically Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So I dove into the technical side of their writing, and I was like, I'm going to learn. And I spent 2 or 3 years, and I was kind of known as the, one of the lyric guys.
Right. Yeah.
And there were other lyric guys, and there's one other that's had 50 million number ones, and it was either we're gonna call him or we're gonna call Aaron, you know what I mean? And but I never got a pub deal at first. I was too pop for Christian, I was too Christian for pop, I was too R&B and hip hop for country,
Yeah.
But I did the whole thing with all the Christian publishers, and they were just like, yeah, you're a little
So
edgy.
hard.
You're a little
edgy.
Whatever.
You're going to make the gatekeepers uncomfortable.
Yes. So, but I told myself, I'm going to give myself 2 years. If I don't get a publishing deal in 2 years, then I'll go to grad school and I'll coach.
Yeah.
I was about 18 months in, and Lenny had signed a pop deal and moved to LA. And he was like, dude, come on. He's like, just give it a shot out here. And so I was literally taping boxes, packing to move. Phone call from a guy named Mike McLaughlin, and Mike said, hey, you're not in a pub deal? And I said, no. He said, Toby's starting a publishing company. If you stay in town, we'll sign you. And I was like, do you need to hear songs? He's like, no, we've heard your songs. We thought you were in a deal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started. Since then, once I decided, I'm really going to do this, I started playing piano again. I didn't want to just be the lyric guy.
Right.
I knew that's where my strengths were, and still are. But I also knew sometimes I felt less like a songwriter and more like a poet. And part of the story we'll get to later is I care as much about the craft as I do the art. And I think those are two different things. Yeah. I care a lot about the analytical side of songwriting as I do the artistic side. And for me to feel, and maybe it was a selfish feeling, maybe, but I wanted to feel a little bit more involved. I sat down to write with people who are the best, guitar players or piano players or keys players or whatever in town. I didn't need to touch a piano, right? But for myself, I needed to, go beyond, the block chords that I did when I was in 8th grade and never touched the piano again. So, yeah.
So you had a lot of what you would, and pretty much anyone would consider success with songwriting, right? Like you felt success in that.
I did. What's funny is, because it all kind of, it feels like people are like, oh, it happened so fast for you. Well, no, I gave myself 2 years to get a pub deal. Like I got a couple of cuts first, and then I was like, well, that was easy. This will just happen. And then it didn't.
Right.
And I know for people who move to town and they're doing the really the grind, 2 years is like, dude, come on. Like,
I've been here 14 years, right? Yeah. 7 years.
But for me, because I never felt like that artist that, I never felt if I don't write songs, I'm not going to breathe. I didn't have that. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I love it. I love the art. I love, but I always knew I'll figure it out.
Right.
So I gave myself 2 years because I didn't have that. So, but then, I got signed to the publisher of my dreams, which ended up being EMAC Music, which was Toby Mac's publishing company. Came full circle from me touring around in a van in the middle of Kentucky and Ohio and Virginia, doing DC Talk songs to
love it,
working with him.
Yeah. So how long were you just full-time songwriting? How many years?
Oh man, 2003 or 4 until 2018, I guess, 17 or 18. Yeah. 15 years-ish. Yeah.
So you do this for forever. Yeah. When you were thinking about, maybe I don't want to do songwriting full time anymore, what were the things or the indicators, the experiences that were making you feel or decide or know that it was going to be something different for you now?
I think a couple things. I think that publishing company was acquired by a major. As happens with majors and in the music industry, there's turnover at times.
Yeah.
I was getting different day-to-day person. I was signed originally as part of a team, a 3-writer team. Both of those writers, after those deals ended, went country.
Yeah.
And I've had crazy success, and they will both be on this podcast at some time soon.
Yeah. One of them of which we wrote a song with that must see the light of day before we die.
Yes. But I was no longer part of that team. I still felt that I was too pop for Christian and too Christian for pop. Like I still felt like, where do I fit? And my whole career had been around pop music, faith-based pop music, not necessarily CCM.
Yeah.
My whole career, one of the things, to Toby's credit, when they signed me, was you write songs, we worry about where they go.
Yeah.
and
Amazing.
and that doesn't always happen, you
No,
know.
because he's like the dream artist. He has because he's earned it. He has a ton of freedom,
Right.
like he can get away with things that, and he's adored for it.
So
It's great.
so yeah, so m- I cared so much about the artist. I was doing a lot of artist development.
Mhm.
But when that deal was ending in 20, I don't know, 14 or 15, they came to me and said, okay, here's the deal. And I'd recouped
Mm.
all, what is that, 10 years of a deal
Yeah, it's a
at
big
that
deal.
point. I'd recouped all of that. And they
Yeah.
came to me and said, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to resign you, but for a third of your salary, of
Right.
your
Yeah.
draw. For those of you not in the music world, that's more or less the salary.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I'm married and have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to eat?
Right.
Um, and so I was just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Luckily at that time, Chad Green, who was just on,
Yeah.
I was starting a new position at a new publisher, and he was like, hey, I want to work with you. I've wanted to work with you for a long time. So I spent 2 years with him.
Yeah.
So
And we
yeah,
did we did hear that story too of how that
yes, yeah.
ended. And it's interesting where it's just kind of like, and I think it's not just the music industry, it's any business. It's just like sometimes the business changes, budgets change, all of these things, and then you just have the ripple effect of everyone in the wake of that. But yeah, you have so many passions as far as just like writing, the artist development, working with the artist. You haven't really talked about much of your producing because you're also a really great producer. I mean, some of my favorite stuff that we've done together are songs that you've just produced on your own, which is just incredible. Thinking of like the Praise and Arrow stuff, and those songs are just amazing. But so you come to this, and then what is your creative experience currently? Currently, you're not writing full time. Tell us what you are doing currently full time, and then also how music still plays into that.
So during all of that, as you know, I started a little artist development company,
Mm.
basically just trying to help people, artists, writers, producers, get to the next level of their career.
Yeah.
During that time, I decided I wanted to go to law school,
Mm-hmm.
and have become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it. I
Not
am
a
not
small
writing full
thing.
time. I am uh, writing maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I take that creativity into my practice of law.
Yeah.
I'm an sports and entertainment lawyer. I finally get to marry my two passions from my whole life.
Yes.
Um, Sports and entertainment lawyer. I am the chair of a sports and entertainment division of a law firm, and I love it.
Yeah.
So I love to be creative. My deal with Daywin with Chad was very creative. We did some things that a lot of
Yeah.
people hadn't done
He's so
before,
creative. Yeah. That's
and
amazing.
just to make kind of the money work and all the things work. And I think that process kind of started the process of I love
Hmm.
the contract side.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
I
I'm a
love it.
lawyer now.
You are a lawyer now and still
So,
writing.
and still writing, still producing. Um, I, I've always found myself to be a writer who produces rather
Mm-hmm.
than a producer who writes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, I care about the song so much more
Yeah.
than I care about a snare sound.
Right. Right.
Um,
But you
that's
still don't let him fool you, friends. He still has plenty of opinions on all of the sounds and
uh,
especially vocal phrasing. Big,
I,
big, big, big
it's
time
funny.
opinions.
I listen to other people's production and tracks, and I'm like, I will never. They're so good. I'll never get there. You know what I mean? Um, and it's Yeah.
Yes.
I guess it's just self-doubt that we all have.
Yeah.
But I guess that was my form of artistry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
That's
but I enjoy
beautiful.
the writing process more than the production process. I do.
Right.
So
Oh, production process is so just tedious, in my opinion. Like
yeah.
it is hard. It is. It's the grind for sure. So now, how does your definition of success differ today than it did when you started out in that first night writing your rap
Well,
bars?
I think at first it was if I land on a record, that's success.
Mhm.
Right. I also it was kind of the end of the CD era, right? When iTunes were starting.
Yeah.
So it was, you could, people, songwriters could make a living then.
Hmm.
Then it was like, well, now it's if I can get a song on the radio, that's success.
Yeah.
Right. Then I had my first number one. Well, if I get a song on to be number one, that's success.
Yeah.
Then I had a Grammy nomination. Like and it was never enough. Nothing was ever enough.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I look back and it was, I'm weird. My brain, there are two sides of my brain. I have the one side that's like, it's not enough. But I also have the other side of, no, I'm successful. And this is just going to keep happening.
Yeah.
And guess what? that's not the way it works.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but my definition of success throughout most of my career has been if the person singing my song is successful to whatever that looks like, then I've been a success.
Yeah.
Now it is if my clients land the deal or get whatever they want or whatever, if my clients are able to put food on the table and sing songs for a living, that's success.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. The common theme here is as we get married and have kids, things change,
We have
right?
a different perspective.
We just do. And something Mark said in the last episode of like, never let what's important be bound by the things that are not. And like success now just looks and tastes and feels and smells different.
Yeah.
It is, am I happy with the way this went down?
Yeah.
Am I happy with now I'm writing songs less, so am I happy with the way this song feels or what it says? Or I mean, there are songs that I've had that are quote unquote successful that I'm like, man, I wish I could get 30 more minutes with that lyric.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Totally. I love that. Looking forward, as you're like crafting your life in your mind, what do you want it to look like? If it was like the most success that you could possibly have, like what does your life look like in, I don't know,
I
5 years,
want
10 years?
I want songwriters, not I mean, certainly singer-songwriters, but I want those who are just songwriters to be able to live because the world values their work again.
People might not be aware of how the plight of the songwriter and how that is kind of just not possible right now.
Yeah. I want people to value art visually, visual artists. There was a time Monet existed. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not popular right now. I want visual artists. I want songwriters. I want filmmakers. I want creativity to be valued again. It's part of the reason I went to law school.
Beyond your Instagram reel and your TikTok, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your bots.
Yeah.
So that's what I care about.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful.
And I care about, I mean, obviously, being a decent dad and husband in the middle of all that. So
being
yeah,
human. It's interesting, like your view of success is sort of like almost creating a massive industrial change. Like a revolution in the
it's funny.
industry.
I had so many songwriters. You know, part of the spur for law school was I read a statistic that there were 85% less full-time songwriters in 2015 than there
Mhm.
were in 2005.
Yeah.
I had friends that were nominated for Grammys that were not able to get off of their day job to go to the Grammys.
Right. I know.
And I'm like, seriously? And so that was part of the catalyst. And it's, I just I want us to value ourselves, but
Mm.
I want the other people to value. And um, yeah, so
Yeah. And it's
I could spend a whole episode on that.
true, true. Like the value of art, because art brings beauty into our life, and beauty has incredible value for
Yeah,
just survival and who we are as people,
yeah.
humans. That is very inspiring. Um,
I think my view of success now is also being okay with where you are.
mhm.
Um, lose the lose the negative self-talk.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
I love it. Did you have anything particularly inspiring this week that you experienced?
Yes. Speaking of
Yes. Okay. Whoa, this is gonna be a good one.
speaking of the industrial change,
Uh-huh.
um, it's oh man, this one this also will so highlight the difference between me and you.
Oh no. Okay.
And because you're gonna have some like super deep inspirational quote, or you saw a seagull mill some flour or something.
Stop.
Um,
This one is mine's gonna be very short and sweet. So this
and
is a good
so
Hmm.
but mine is sort of related to my new career, or the new phase of my career, and sort of related to industry change. But I dove headfirst into NFTs.
Ooh.
And do you remember one of the one of the first companies that kind of started the the downfall of the songwriting society was a company called LimeWire. Do
Yeah,
you remember LimeWire?
I do.
Where you
Yeah.
could, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Upload the song and then every like little pieces and everyone downloads and
yeah,
yep.
um, and nobody got paid for it. Yeah.
Right.
So
Stealing?
LimeWire, so LimeWire basically was gone for, iTunes happened and then whatever.
Mhm.
LimeWire has relaunched,
Oh heavens.
but uh, as an NFT company,
Oh
and I love it. Um, LimeWire has now, they're on the other side going, okay, independent artists, writers, musicians, here's how we can upend status quo and you get paid.
my goodness.
And the reason that's inspiring to me is because when people think you're obsolete and
Mm.
people look down on you for what you are known for, you can go in hiding and come back and go, or I'm in charge of how this chapter ends,
Yeah. Yeah.
and rebrand and and
Yeah.
relaunch. So it just came across my desk the other day. I don't know a lot about it,
Cool.
but I found it to be amazing because as I'm rebranding myself, if
Yeah.
I'm a brand, um, I don't want to lose the, hey, don't forget I was a songwriter, or I am a
Yeah.
songwriter. Like I struggle with that.
Mm.
And maybe that's because I'm holding on to quote unquote success.
Yeah.
But LimeWire is like, no, we're in charge of our brand and our story ending.
I love that.
And I kind of love that.
Yeah. That's of course I'm thinking of like the the nature is like they're the butterfly. You know, they went into their chrysalis, they completely liquefied and turned into like a gross goo, and then they came out a new
I
creature.
almost used the butterfly reference, but then I was like, that's a Kerrie move.
No, come to me.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
We have baby little zebra wing caterpillars on our passion flower outside. It's very exciting.
Of course
We're watching them. Okay, something that inspires me. This is very simple and short. Is this little, hold on, I'm gonna sit on my knees so you can see. It's just like a little cardigan. And it's something that I stole. It's like crocheted. It's something I stole out of my mom's closet because she was like, just come over here. I'm getting rid of a bunch of stuff. She wore this when she was my age or maybe even younger. And to me, I love wearing memories. Like when I go somewhere, I don't want to buy a postcard. I want to buy like a piece of jewelry, something I can wear on my body to remember. So one, it's my mother's, which I love. And two, it's just the symbol of it's how you don't expire. You know, it's like you feel like, oh, I'm not relevant anymore. But very much going into what you just said, where it's like you can go into hiding and then come back out and be very relevant and always have something to say. So to me, it's just a reminder of that. And I love wearing it. It's super cute. People are always like, ooh, where'd you get that? I'm like, if you want it, you have to go back in time a gajillion years. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what inspires me, is just knowing that we can always be relevant. We can always, like you said, rebrand ourselves. And if you have something to say, say it, but don't just make noise.
Ooh, look at you with the quotes.
You know, that's what I hate about social media. Just a bunch of noise with people with nothing to say.
But speaking of social media, I was just about to say, hey, we want to hear from you guys though. So Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Let us know what you love. Don't let us know what you don't love. I don't want to read that part.
Be kind.
I'm fragile. But let us know what you love. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Things like that. Like what you'd like to hear us tackle. Maybe we should do a Q&A episode one day where we just, yeah.
Cool.
So, well, thank you guys for listening. This has been Yep and That Too.
Yep and That Too.
With Aaron and Kerrie.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Yep and That Too, a podcast for creatives. Yep and That Too is hosted by Kerrie Roberts and Aaron Rice, co-produced by Sarah Rice and Maven Media Productions. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Yep and That Too Podcast, with new episodes every other Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. The information on this podcast is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information is not intended to create, and receipt of or listening to does not constitute an attorney-client relationship.